Hi, my name is Taylor with Happy Dance. Welcome back to part 2 of February's lecture, Engagement as a Nervous System Relationship. Let's get into it. When we talk about becoming easy to orient to, we are not talking about being entertaining. Engagement is not built by performing for the dog. It is built by reducing friction in the nervous system. This distinction matters because many owners try to increase engagement by adding stimulation. They move more, they talk more, they add excitement, they increase novelty. From a nervous system perspective, this often backfires. Stimulation raises arousal. Raised arousal narrows choice. Narrowed choice reduces engagement. This is why engagement often deteriorates when humans try to pump it up. The nervous system is not asking for more input. It is asking for less pressure. Engagement grows in environments where the dog does not have to manage excessive information. Information is not neutral. Information requires processing. Processing consumes bandwidth. When bandwidth is consumed, orientation becomes expensive. This is why constant narration is often harmful to engagement. Owners frequently talk through every moment. They comment, they instruct, they reassure, they redirect. They fill silence with words. From the human perspective, this feels supportive. From the dog's nervous system perspective, it often feels noisy. Noise reduces clarity. Clarity supports orientation. Silence is not absence. Silence is space. Space allows the nervous system to settle. A settled nervous system is capable of curiosity. Curiosity drives voluntary orientation. This is why dogs often check in more when humans stop talking. Not because the dog is being tested, but because the nervous system finally has room to notice. Engagement also depends heavily on predictability. Predictability is one of the strongest regulators of nervous system safety. When movement, pace, and response patterns are consistent, the dog does not need to monitor the human closely. Monitoring is effortful. Effort reduces capacity. When predictability is high, the dog can relax. Relaxation restores choice, and choice allows engagement to emerge. This is why erratic handling often reduces engagement. Sudden stops, sudden turns, sudden leash pops, sudden changes in tone. Each surprise increases vigilance. Vigilance competes with engagement. Engagement thrives when the human is boring in the right ways. Predictable, steady, emotionally neutral. This does not mean disengaged. It means regulated. A regulated human nervous system supports a regulated canine nervous system. This is the relational component of engagement that is often overlooked. Engagement is not just about what the dog does. It is about what the human nervous system communicates. Tension travels through the leash. Urgency travels through posture. Frustration travels through breath. Dogs read this information continuously. When the human nervous system is tight, the dog's nervous system mirrors that tension. When the human nervous system is settled, the dog has permission to settle. Settling restores orientation. This is why engagement cannot be reduced to technique. You can execute every engagement game perfectly and still struggle if your nervous system is escalated. Because engagement is relational, it is co regulated. This is also why engagement varies day to day. It is not a fixed trait, it is a state dependent process. A dog who engages easily one day may disengage the next day. This does not mean regression. It means the nervous system is responding to load, sleep, environment, routine changes, accumulated stress. All of these influence capacity. When owners interpret disengagement as failure, they often add pressure. They try to correct the problem. But disengagement is not a problem to fix. It is information to respect. When we respect disengagement, we preserve trust. When we punish disengagement, we teach the dog that orientation is dangerous. This is how engagement erodes long term. Engagement without pressure requires patience, not passive patience, active patience. It requires the human to tolerate moments of non orientation without reacting. This can be uncomfortable. Humans are often conditioned to believe that constant engagement equals success. Silence feels like failure. Distance feels like loss of control. But engagement grows in the space between demands. This is why allowing disengagement is critical. Disengagement is not the opposite of engagement, it is part of the cycle. Dogs orient, dogs disengage, dogs reorient. When this cycle is allowed to flow naturally, engagement strengthens. When disengagement is interpreted or punished, the cycle breaks and engagement becomes brittle. This is also why engagement cannot be maintained through constant reinforcement. Reinforcement is not the same as value. Reinforcement answers, what do I get for this? Value answers, how does this feel? Engagement sustained by reinforcement alone often collapses when reinforcement is removed. Engagement sustained by value persists. Value is built when orientation consistently leads to ease. Ease may look like reduced pressure, slower movement, more space, predictable outcomes, continuation of enjoyable activities. These outcomes tell the nervous system that orientation is safe. Over time, the dog begins offering orientation proactively, not because they are waiting for a reward, but because orientation has become regulating. This is the goal of engagement without pressure. Orientation becomes a coping strategy. The dog checks in to regulate themselves. This is the kind of engagement that holds up under stress, not because the dog has been trained harder, but because engagement has become neurologically useful. This reframes engagement as a support system, not a performance metric. Engagement is not something the dog does for us. It is something the relationship provides for the dog. When the shift happens, training decisions change. We stop asking how to extract attention. We start asking how to reduce cost. We start managing every moment. We start protecting nervous system safety. And engagement begins to appear more frequently, more reliability, more softly. This is the foundation. Before we talk about micro engagement, before we talk about distance, before we talk about value building, we must understand this. Engagement is a nervous system relationship. It cannot be rushed, it cannot be forced, and it cannot survive under pressure. When engagement is protected, everything else becomes easier. When it is ignored, everything else becomes louder. That wraps up my first lecture for February. Watch out for our second lecture coming to you soon. And thank you so much for tuning in. And I will see you later.